Marjorie Taylor Greene was getting interviewed by Steve Bannon, and I want to show you that interaction. It's not the best.
Particularly, we go back to the beginning. We go back to 3 November. Do you believe that that committee can be set up in the new Congress where we actually adjudicate what you and all the other congressmen and senators were not able to do for those 24 hours, 12 hours in each house, that you would actually have the opportunity to put forward the real information and the real data so we can show the entire world that Joe Biden's illegitimate and that those electors must be decertified in an official capacity?
So we'll let Marjorie Taylor Greene respond, but look at the question. They're still talking about, after years now of not providing any evidence to these claims, they're still talking about overturning the 2020 election and actually trying to do it. Not saying it was stolen, but, here we are now. We've passed the time to do something about it. Of course, it wasn't, but even if that was the claim they were making, no, he still thinks in Congress they could decertify.
In Congress in a hearing, ma'am.
I would love to do that, Steve. I would love it. It would take a lot of courage from my colleagues, but I'm on board with that from day one.
But particularly, we go back.
I'm on board with that from day one. Doing some hearings to figure out how they can decertify the 2020 election. The 2020 election. We're about to have the 2022 midterms. They've had 2 years to figure out how to even falsely present evidence about the 2020 election being stolen. And they haven't. But they're still going to try to figure out how to come up with a plot to overturn the election. So when I hear people, it's so aggravating. When I hear people pretend like it's not a significant issue, the threat that the MAGA movement, Trump, all of his allies pose to our democratic process, I want you to watch that on repeat until you believe it. Because that is one of the most popular congresswomen in the Republican Party. At one point was the leading fundraiser, and a very, very popular right-wing podcaster saying, all right, let's get down to business, figure out how, if you get back in power as the majority party in the House, we can overturn the last election. That is the most anti-democracy you could possibly get. And there aren't enough people within the Republican House who would go for that. So I'm not concerned that it'll happen. There's not even a process to do that, but I'm not even concerned that they'll get anywhere with this type of behavior. But it is spreading further and further, far and wide, the idea to their followers that there's some justification to believe so much is warranted against the Democratic Party, against the left, in favor of Trump and his movement, because the election was stolen. So we're justified in pretty much anything. And they are just throwing chunks of nice red meat to their base to say, I'm going to do everything, not to address your economic well-being, not to try to improve your life in any way, but to just smash down our democratic process and the belief in our democracy for the sake of getting some cheers at rallies, for the sake of being beloved among the MAGA movement. Because for them, it is easier to believe, and I say this all the time, it's easier to believe there was this huge, big cabal that planned this massive thing and no evidence was able to get revealed, but somehow they stole the election completely for Biden, even though we have an incredibly decentralized election system, and yet no whistleblower came out, no court cases revealed this, but somehow they stole it for Biden. It's easier to believe that for the MAGA movement than just, hey, maybe the guy who had historically low approval rating, being Donald Trump, didn't win re-election in the middle of a pandemic where he was looking very bad, where he was getting severely politically damaged. Maybe he just wasn't as popular as you thought he was. And maybe he lost free and fairly. But no, it's easier for them to believe the first thing. It's so crazy. It's scary. And you wish they could get pulled out of it, but I don't see that happening. So here we are, Congresswoman, famous, right-wing podcaster saying that we should just steal the election. The one that happened way back then. Super, super bad stuff. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support what I do as well as get access to the full show, all of the stories hours before any of the clips are uploaded to YouTube, plus a weekly bonus show, you can go to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's patreon.com/Luke Beasley.